Nice. Yeah, so as I had mentioned, this is a discussion about contributing to the WordPress open source project. We have a bunch of folks here that are experienced contributors and or advocates for contributing. Maybe we should just do like a quick round of introductions. My name is Courtney. I'm based in Portland, Oregon. I mainly contribute to the community team. So I would say probably like 85% of my time is contributing to community. I contribute to the TV team as well. And I am a full-time like sponsored volunteer by Automatic. I'll just go around my screen. So start with Michael.
Hi. My name is Michael Altieri. I'm based in Verona, New Jersey. I work as an engineer at Penske Media Corporation. I've been there for about 6.5 years. Also, I am one of the newest deputies, community deputies with WordPress, though I've been organizing a meetup in Montclair, New Jersey for about 4 or 5 years, something like that, and helped get WordCamp Montclair off the ground in 2019. Hoping to bring it back in 2022. We're in the beginning stages of planning that. I've also contributed some code to core, though I need to get to doing that a bit more than I have been or hoping to. So, but yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Cool. Thanks for being here. Amy June.
I'm Amy June. I live outside of the San Francisco Bay Area, and my time is sponsored by Canopy Studios. I work both in Drupal and WordPress, mostly in Drupal. But I was asked a couple of years ago by Angela to come in to WordPress and sort of do some things that I did in Drupal at WordCamp US. And so I was on the WordCamp US organizing team 2 years and 1 year serving with Christina working on Contributor Day. Unfortunately, that didn't come to fruition because of all of the things. But I'm a core mentor in the Drupal space. And so I'm an advocate for getting everyone involved. And that's what Angela and Kevin kind of wanted me to help with before all the things happened, was really coming in and inspiring mentors, because that's what I do mostly, is mentor mentors. And so at the WordPress level, I live in San Francisco, so I can't be a camp volunteer because we're not allowed to have a camp or a meetup. But I do a lot of volunteering, a lot of speaking, a lot of empowering people to give back.
That's awesome. And it was Amy June's talk that really inspired me to like get a group of folks together to talk contributing. So thank you for that. Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina Workman. I'm in Calgary, Alberta in Canada. I work at Web Dev Studios and mostly contribute to community as well, but I have also made contributions to polyglots, documentation, TV. I made my first suggestion to core a couple months ago, and I think it's being I'm going to call it an edit, is being, I think, released in 5.9. So that's a little proud moment for me.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And, yeah.
Cool. Jorban, if you're there, if you want to share an intro.
Sure. I'm Aaron Jorban. I am a contributor on the core team. I've also been a contributor on the community team. I've organized multiple WordCamps, both local WordCamps, WordCamp US, and WordCamp for publishers. I've also been, I am the translator for the emoji translation of WordPress, and have got a lot of badges from just contributing random things because I've been around for way too long.
Yeah, happy to have you here. Toby.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, Toby, actually Torbjörn Fjellner, but that is too tricky to pronounce, so most friends call me Toby. I'm Swedish, based out of currently Barcelona in Spain. I did co-organize the WordCamp in Stockholm 4 years ago. Time runs fast, but most of my time I contribute to WordPress is about being a global mentor for internationalization and localization of WordPress. So that's on the polyglots. And then I also spend some time in the support area. I think 90% of the questions we get in the Swedish forum will get responded by me. And then I help sometimes with moderator tasks in the global forums as well. And I'm not sponsored by anyone, so I just do this for the fun. It would be great, of course, someday to be sponsored, but right now it's just I do it when I have time available. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. And Miriam, welcome.
Hi, I'm sorry for my shouting earlier.
No problem.
I have just joined the Exeter meetup group, and the group then closed. So they asked for somebody to step up, and because my background's events, I stepped up. But I'm very, very new to WordPress. I've done a few really so new that I've only still kind of working out how to make sites. And so when I saw this, I was really keen just to understand more about what it takes to bring people together. I've kind of like sending notes around to people that have been in the group before and trying to get them to kind of do more. But the problem is we're in an area that's very rural, even though it's the UK. And there's a kind of city, so it's kind of looking at how to use online and kind of get people to do clusters as meeting up. That's me.
So are you like the sole organizer of the group now, or do you have a team or anyone helping you out?
Well, I certainly just handed over last week, and
Wow.
and so I went through the course, which is quite interesting, and so already I've learnt lots, and just through doing that. And what I'm going to do is the first meeting. What I did was send a note, and I'm going to have a call with the person that has been running it, and then I'm going to try to set up a group of organisers as the first kind of a cluster, and then get them to do very local meetings, because the area is around like 50-mile radius around this one town. They have been doing it, and then but have monthly online meetings. So it's very new.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. It sounds like you would benefit a lot from the the resources of the community team, and so I'd be happy to like share some more resources with you after this. Have you reviewed, or you watched the workshop related to our discussion group, so you learned about like the contributor teams? Is there any particular team that like that you're interested in learning more about?
Just the community support one seems the most obvious one, and and really I was just going to sit here and listen, just to kind of any chance.
No problem.
I'll try not to say anything silly.
Oh, you can always feel free to ask questions. We're here to just to answer questions about contributing and just chat about our experiences. So yeah, thanks for coming. Feel free to to pop in anytime with any questions or comments. So thanks for being here. And we have another attendee here that I don't see a face, so just wanted to say hello and welcome. But yeah, it still says connecting to audio here. Hello. Okay. I don't know. Let's just chat about contributing. So I guess we did talk about like what teams we all mainly contribute to. I'm most familiar with community, of course. I've been doing that for a long time. has anyone in this group that has been a contributor for a while started with a particular team and found yourself like wanting to try out another team, or yeah, like what was your journey like as a contributor? So is what I'm curious about. Like I specifically, like I started with the community, of course, but then I was just like, oh, I kind of like working with video. So I've dipped my toes into the TV team for the past year, and that's been fun. So yeah, let's go around the room again. Michael, I know that you just became a community deputy. Have you had any other experience working with other contributor teams?
Yeah, a little bit. Like I come from a development background, so my first dip into contributing to WordPress, or at least as I saw it, was contributing code to core, and I did that every now and again. And it was kind of interesting thinking about it. It's like I need to contribute more of myself, and like I kept on thinking about like contributing code, because that was the association I made as an engineer, is like I'm helping by being active in core development. But then I realized like I've been doing meetups for years and using my time in the community, and like that got me out of the house, well, pre-COVID, and getting to know people in the community and helping them grow, learn what they want to learn, and work with other folks in our local community to have great events. And it dawned on me, I'm like, I give a lot of my time in community. I should focus on that more. I get a lot out of it. So I still throw in a patch here and there, but I feel like most of my time is spent working in our own local community and with our meetups and our WordCamps.
How many hours per week would you say that you spend contributing? And there's no wrong answer.
A few at least.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, especially during the pandemic, it became really hard for other organizers. We have about 3 or 4 active WordPress groups that are in New Jersey. So we kind of collaborated together to do virtual meetups, because doing our own virtual meetups separately, it was taxing on a lot of the organizers. So it was a lot easier to, like, since it's virtual, we could, pool our resources, cross promote the same meetup across the board, and grow our larger community. And that really helped out a lot with all the organizers and the community in general. And we learned a lot, and we also were able to we found when you are virtual, you attract people that are outside your just local area, both with speakers and with participants. So I think even though if we go back to in person, we're still going to have a virtual aspect to our larger group, and maybe it won't be as frequent as it is now, but at least, it'll be there, because we don't want to exclude people that have joined our community that aren't,
of course,
in New Jersey.
Yeah, cool. Oh, thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Amy June, would you like to share a little bit about your contributor journey?
Sure. Again, it started in Drupal, but open source is open source for the most part. I started writing patches for Drupal core. That's how I started in Drupal. Was I'm not a good developer, and I don't want to sound reductive. I choose not to be a good developer. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not something I pursue, but I love the idea of giving back. And so I started helping with documentation patches and all of these things. And the documentation was so hard as a non-coder to follow. And so that's how I got into contributing to core, was improving the documentation. And then I thought, how come no one's teaching how to write a patch? And so I started doing first-time contributor workshops at the local and regional level. And then we took it to the DrupalCon level, DrupalCon Europe, and we do these first-time contributor workshops where we teach people, doesn't matter if you're a designer or in human resources, you can make a patch and you can make a difference. And then we started to think about how, well, core isn't everything, and our structure is a little bit different than WordPress's. And so I went to WordCamp US about 4 or 5 years ago, and I saw this space, your contributor day, and how there was only one little core table and the rest were all of these groups. And I thought, wow, that's the opposite in Drupal. And so we sort of like turned things around when we talk about first-time contributor workshops in Drupal, and we talk about all of the things, and code's just one little part. So that was really inspirational. And I live in San Francisco, so we're, quote, not allowed to have a local meetup for WordPress because Matt doesn't want the namespace to be used because of the flagship event. So we've been working on Bay Area Drupal Camp, which is Bad Camp, but we've been working on changing it into Bay Area Developer Camp so we can be inclusive of some more CMSs, and WordPress being one of those. And then in the meantime, I've joined, WordCamp US team, and then helping Jill on the community team with the diverse speaker workshops, which actually she showed the Drupal community those workshops. And so I've been giving those in the Drupal space for about 3 years now. So a lot of these things I've learned in the WordPress community, we've taken and modeled into the Drupal community. And I'm looking to sort of take some of those good parts we have in Drupal, like we have this really good mentoring program and mentoring the mentors. And if we can move that into the WordPress space, because we have all these contributors, but a lot of them only contribute once, and we really kind of want to hook them, right? We want to have that experience where we have those long-term contributors, that longevity, and not just at the once a year thing. So I want to like help, and that was the goal with Christina a couple years ago was getting that like mentoring thing up and running. And so that's kind of my journey, is just really coming from the non-code perspective, wanting everyone to be involved.
Yeah. I like that. I would really love to see a stronger or more like fleshed out mentoring the mentors program within the WordPress community. We do have like WordCamp mentor programs, but even that isn't very fleshed out. Like we have some guidelines there. And so, yeah, it'd be great to have another like mentoring the mentors program. So yeah, thank you. And yeah, another point I wanted to make is that like a lot of folks are often under the impression that to participate in contributing or to contribute back to the project that you have to be like a technical person, to be a coder. I like contributor days because I often like talk to people that are just like, I don't know what this is, and I don't know how to code. And it's just like, hey, me neither. And, let's talk about like, where are your interests? So I love, oh, we have another person joining us here. Yeah, I love hearing stories about folks that, start contributing that don't have a coding background. So Christina, love to hear a little bit about your contributor journey.
Yeah, so I started with volunteering at a WordCamp, which turned into organizing at our WordCamp, which turned into organizing our meetups. And then eventually all that led to being on the WordCamp US organizing team as well. And we had our first local contributor day that same year that I joined the WordCamp US organizing team. So that was really great, and we hope to do that again soon once we can. But yeah, one of the things that like you said, you don't have to be a coder in order to contribute, because there's lots of different teams that have nothing to do with code. But the other thing that I like to make sure that there's awareness on is, just because you're a coder doesn't mean you have to code, just like Mike was saying, right? And so there's lots of opportunities, and like even the suggestion that I made in core, I didn't have to do any code for that. That was just something that I noticed that I thought might benefit from a bit of a rework, and I made the suggestion and I made my case, and it was agreed on that, you know, that it could be improved. And so other people coded it and it was actually an accessibility issue as well. So it was actually the accessibility team that sort of took that on and spearheaded it.
Oh, that's
So
great.
yeah. So yeah, accessibility is one of the teams that I'm thinking about maybe getting into. I've started sort of keeping an eye on what they're doing from time to time. What else? Yeah, at WebDev, we have 5 for the Future Day. So once a month, usually the last Friday of the month, our whole company spends the whole day contributing to open source one way or another. So
That's really cool.
typically that's my time for that has been spent, you know, with whatever WordCamps and meetups I'm organizing at the time.
Mhm.
I've had to pare down my contributing recently temporarily. So outside of that, I don't currently do a whole lot more, but in the past, I have done more contributing.
Mhm.
Again, in the community team, and then, yeah, just random things here and there. I like to kind of, in an effort to be a good advocate for contributing, I like to have an understanding of what all the teams do. So it's a slow process, and there's still some teams that I couldn't speak 100% to, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to learn more about you know, a lot of the teams that I've never really interacted with. What would you say is like the most recent team you've learned about that that was new to you?
Accessibility and design were the two that I sort of focused on our last 5 for the Future, reading their onboarding docs and sort of seeing what they're up to. And
Great.
yeah, so
Yeah, that's
yeah, because
cool.
it's funny, you don't think necessarily even about design, right? Like there was a page that we were thinking about adding or modifying on the Make site. And, you know, you think, well, it's just a little bit of content. I just need somebody to write it. But no, you need to involve design as well. And you need to consider accessibility, and then there's the code. And so there's, you know, all of these different pieces that you don't necessarily think of. So,
Yeah.
and I, you know, my first thought was, you know, well, we'll figure out what we want there first before we involve design. And of course, that's not really the right way to go about it either. The sooner you can involve a team and let them know what's going on, the better. And then they can help influence that direction. So,
yeah, I think something that I learned over time is like this cross-team collaboration thing is just like, it's really cool to see that at work, because sometimes when you're contributing, or just from my personal experience, like when I'm contributing to just like a single team for a while, it kind of becomes an island, and we forget like, oh, well, we should be working with marketing on this, and support on this, and yeah, it's just easy to forget. And especially right now where we're not like all working in the same room during a contributor day, it's easy to forget. So we just get really focused on what we're doing.
yeah. Speaking of marketing too, right?
Yeah.
You may not even think that what you're doing needs marketing. And
Mhm.
maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but maybe they can help you with writing whatever you're working on too, because communication is part of marketing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting the wording right and making sure that it's on brand and things like that are a great reason to always check in with marketing too.
Yeah, for sure. Like a lot of the posts that we put up on Make Community oftentimes will run by people on the marketing team, or like we have a meetup organizer newsletter, and now there's a Polyglots newsletter, and so that gets run by folks on the community or the marketing team as well. So yeah, it's fun to collaborate with the other teams. So Christina had mentioned 5 for the Future. So if you're not familiar with the 5 for the Future initiative, that is companies basically like sponsoring or donating like 5% of their workforce back to the open source project. So to contribute back the project. So Automatic is obviously like one of the biggest I don't know, groups in that space, since Automatic is now like, I don't know, seriously, like 5,000 people at this point. So we still have a fairly small percentage of Automatic that is sponsored to contribute to the open source project. So I think that maybe there's like 100 people out of like 5,000 right now. And so I'm particularly, as I mentioned, I particularly concentrate on community, but we do have folks pretty much on a majority of the contributor teams. So a lot of other companies do this as well, as you've heard with all the other folks in this room, most of the folks in this room. So I am curious to hear from Jorban as well. You've been, as you said, you've been around the project for a long time, and you know, mainly like core and community. What else have you contributed to?
So when I first started contributing, there weren't separate groups. There was just the contributor groups. Instead of separate make blogs, there was just WP Devel. And that was the one place for discussing anything related to the project. And I mean, I've moved around. I organized a meetup for a number of years. I helped create the guidelines for the like formal meetup group and like the process around that. I have spoken at multiple events. I volunteered at a couple of WordCamps. In organizing. Yeah, I've just found that each one can reward me in different ways and help me grow personally and professionally in different ways. You know, I started getting into contributing to core because I was a solo developer, freelancer, and never got any sort of feedback on the code that I was writing. I had no idea if the code I was writing was of any quality or not. And so contributing to core actually started allowing me to get feedback on the code that I was writing, and gave me a team to work with, which, you know, it's in many ways is one of those like fast forward events in my career. Like I went from, you know, like a 2 to a 7 in a matter of months, as far as like feeling confidence in my abilities. And yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. It's really cool to see, you know, people that were there in the early days, like just continuing to contribute. And it's an inspiring story, really. And I'm curious if, you know, throughout your years of contributing, if folks approach you as just like, how do I get started? Or, you know, what would your advice be to someone new that's like maybe walks into contributor day, doesn't know what to do?
Jump in, like just jump in with both feet. I remember my first, I was so hesitant the first time I was made any sort of contribution. I went to the Portland WordPress meetup, which was one of the first meetups, and asked if a question that I had was an acceptable question to ask in the WP Hackers mailing list, which is kind of something that predates the forums and predates the make blogs. As a way of like, I was like, is this okay to ask? Am I going to be, you know, sound like an idiot if I ask this? And they were like, no, you're filing a bug report, which like, you're not like, that's okay to do. It's like, you don't need permission to do that.
Yeah. I think that is a big hurdle that people have to get over, is like, I think that I sound silly or, you know, unknowledgeable. I think my questions are stupid, or I feel like this is an established group and I don't know where to fit in. I think there's a level of discomfort there with folks that are new to contributing, that you know, that we as experienced contributors you know, are able to like open up to them.
I felt the same way. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to tag on to that with the permission, I think a lot of new contributors seek permission where we don't need permission, but lots of people, even though they know they don't need it, they like to have that permission. And that's something that I've found with new contributors is they're like, is this okay? And it's like, it is okay because we all use the software different. We all approach the community different. Yeah.
I was going to say, similar to Aaron, when I first contributed my first bit of code, I was scared to death, and I knew a core contributor, and I went through that person in order to try to get it in and like kind of vet it before I like put myself out there. And I tell everybody, like, just jump in with both feet, but like, if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can also come to me and I will help you as well. Or I'll find someone else that can help you on that particular type team. So like, even though it's easier to say that than like, but you have to remember the way you felt back then too. And there are tons of people that feel that way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think especially in our world, in our community, there's a lot of people who are more introverted, who do require that permission. I think we probably, this is a generalization and a guess, but I would imagine we also have a pretty high amount of neurodivergent people who also have different needs and different ways of feeling comfortable to get involved. So it's, the more inclusive and the easier we can make it for people, and the more visible we can make people like ourselves who are willing to help, who are willing to be that friendly face, is really helpful. And I think, riffing off of sort of all of the permission issues, but also something else that Aaron said about how, his coding experience went from like a 2 to a 7. A lot of people, I think that they need to have these skills and have them perfected before they can contribute. But one of the great benefits of contributing is all of the things that you can learn. And I don't think anybody expects for any contributor to be super knowledgeable. And from my experience, the teams and the people who are most active in teams welcome people who are coming in to learn, because if we don't have people coming in and learning more things, then eventually everything just dies out, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think we all have those we all seem to have this expectation of ourselves and not of all of the other contributors. Like, we come into it thinking like, oh, I have like imposter syndrome or something, and I just don't know where I fit in. I feel unknowledgeable. But if coming from the other side as an experienced community contributor, is just like, no, just jump in. As Jorban says, like, that's the best way to do it. And it's scary. It's scary to just like jump in into this like chaos, I guess you can say, of contributing, because there's a lot going on, and you kind of just have to jump into those raging rapids, so to speak.
Yeah, there's a lot of unwritten, not rules, but just, we have a culture built up, and those of us who are in the know, we know how things work and what to expect. But like you said, like the first time I participated in Contributor Day was my first WordCamp US, where I was a volunteer, not an organizer. So it was all very brand new to me. And I remember registering for my ticket, and it asked me, what team am I contributing to, or what team, something about the team, and which team did I belong to, kind of thing. And I kind of had a lot of anxiety around that, because I thought, I'm not part of a team. Am I allowed to go to Contributor Day? What's going on here? And because I had no clue. And so again, back to that permission, am I allowed to be here? Which in our WordPress space, absolutely everybody's allowed to be here and is welcome. Right.
Yeah, that is an important message to share.
I got some idea on that.
Yeah.
I've been just sitting here and listening. When somebody signs up for Slack, they will be automatically joined to the core channel. And well, it can be understood because yes, we're talking about software, but there are so many different ways to contribute. And it's very easy to feel lost if you don't experience yourself as a star coder. It's like, oh, well, what's happening now? And we also every now and then see questions in the core channel because people end up there and don't really realize what is happening. So they kind of say things like, hi, I'm here, what did I miss? And then you have to remind them that, well, you just spammed 38,000 people,
Yeah.
kind of. So one thing we could have on the make front page could be some kind of license that, yes, you are welcome to participate, you have a license to contribute, and there are thousands of ways you can do it, and it's not all about coding. There are so many things needed to make this roll. We already got these teams there, but perhaps also when you're registering for participation somewhere, instead of trying to divide, perhaps better to be more inclusive. And for sure, you should have always one option that is like, I just would like to generally contribute, but I don't really know yet how to do it. Could be a way to invite a bit. And I think that perhaps you should have some kind of new contributor welcome-ish channel on Slack. So when someone comes into Slack, they have a space where they feel allowed to ask those questions that they are allowed may be stupid, but we know that they are not, because if you have this question, then it is a valid question. And perhaps it would be good to provide a space for that uncertainty.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Slack help right now. Perhaps you could rename and slightly just change how we frame that channel. Now it tends to get a lot of support questions just because it has the word help. But if it could be some kind of general contribution mentoring thing, I don't know exactly how to name it. Marketing can come up with that, right? Just my thoughts right now. Oh, and also, I'll just grab the space once I'm here talking. When somebody ad hoc provides translations for the Swedish translations, if they feel good, I often try to make a post where I mention this user in the team page that we've got for Swedish, and invite them to join Slack or local Slack and just get a bit more connected. And some 20% will react on that and actually join the Slack. And a few of those people have moved further into active contributions.
Wow. Good.
Yeah, when I first joined Slack, I did find it overwhelming, but it is the local Slack channels where I asked most of my questions and felt like a greater sense of community, which is a little unfortunate, but I second that, like inviting people, seeing where they're coming from and having them be part of a maybe a smaller team to begin with might be very helpful, because it is a little bit more welcoming when there's only 400 people versus, thousands.
Yeah, for sure.
We could even have something where we allow people to come into some, well, you could have like signing up for some new contributor team where you will be a group of 8 to 10 people where you can ask your questions, get some answers, and you know that what you're asking here will just stay within that little group. Then you won't feel yourself outing too much, so to say. Could be a way. I don't know how to technically make that happen now. One way could be that, okay, in this welcome channel, if you raise your hand or something, then one or our welcoming mentors will bring you into a group discussion within a couple of days, and there you will be able to ask all your questions, for instance.
And then I think folks having seeing some of the same faces for a while too, you know, having this longevity of having a mentoring group that helps them until they find a different space. But I think having familiarity with someone is something that doesn't happen all the time in that big Slack space. You know, sometimes you just don't see the same person twice helping you with your questions.
Yeah, these are ideas that have definitely come up before. I think that mostly in the community team, we talked about it's like, how could we create a welcoming onboarding experience for contributors? And yeah, I would love to hear you bring this up in like the community channel, and see like if there are folks that have the resources or the bandwidth to make something like that happen, or just to see what other folks think about it. There are definitely, I know that there are other folks on the community team that are interested in creating a better experience there. So yeah, feel free to chime in with that. I mean, that's an example of just jumping in and saying like, here's my idea. But it's not necessarily like I'm going to, as an individual, make this happen. It's reaching out to the team and whatever folks that are interested in making that happen, you can work together. So yeah, feel free to bring that up. I wanted to make some space here for our newer contributors or folks that are interested in getting more involved. If you have any questions for us about contributing. We had some late joiners to our meeting, so I just wanted to say hello, and if you have any questions for us, comments. Alrighty. I kind of lost my my momentum there. It's like, I'm not sure what else to chat about.
I was just going to say that I have been putting off joining Slack because I've got no idea what it's going to happen when I do, and because I don't use it much. And then there's a message from Alula, who says they're in an office, but that's all of that very helpful.
Yeah, I think that even joining Slack seems to be a barrier for some folks as well. Either they are unfamiliar with the platform, they don't want to use it. I've had folks that are just like, can we talk on Skype or even back to IRC or something like that.
We started I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it's just kind of like maybe there just needs to be a little paragraph about, kind of what channel you're joining, how many people are in it before you kind of jump in. And also it's just that, it's becoming really popular with lots of different organizations. So what happened, kind of like is just kind of managing that side of it.
I've tried from like the local level. So we have one of the greatest things for the community I thought came out of WordPress within the last few years was promoting meetups and WordCamps in the WordPress dashboard that elevated our exposure to WordPress users, people that have installed it, and like, oh, I'm trying to figure this out. Hey, look, there's a meetup that's in my, that's 5 miles away on the state. I can go. And it increased our membership, active membership. So we were having, when we first started our meetup, we were getting like 10, 12 people a meetup. at some point we were having like stuffing 60 people in a room sort of thing. So it got like, it kind of blew up pretty quickly once that release came out. But what I was saying is like, we have our own Slack account. The Greater New Jersey, we call it Jersey Press. We have a greater Slack account to kind of tie all the different all the meetups together, and also encourage, like, kind of use that as a jump off point, like for people when they feel ready to go into like the Make WordPress Slack. They've already kind of, they can find familiar faces from our meetup in there. They are encouraged, like they're being like, hey, check out what's going on in this team, what's going on in this team. So it starts with a smaller Slack and a smaller local community where they've seen your face, they've talked to you, they know what they're kind of getting into, and then kind of go into that deeper water from like kind of from the local way in. At least that's how I've been trying to handle it, and trying to encourage our membership to feel comfortable going into the WordPress Slack and not feel it overwhelming.
Yeah, starting on the smaller scale is definitely very helpful. So you're not really jumping into like those scary waters.
Yeah, you kind of wade into the low end for a little while before you kind of cross over. Yep,
exactly. Yeah, that's a good metaphor. From I see in the chat we have a comment from.
Hi, that was from me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was in a shared office. I couldn't talk earlier.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been I do a little bit of WordPress development in my own agency, and I've been I always plan on contributing in terms of either development or translation into my local language, but I really I don't know how to go about it. So like today was a good session. I'm already Googling the Slack and everything. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Oh, where are you calling in from?
I am calling from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
I will not try to repeat that. But
Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us.
And I'll also look if there is a local community. I don't know. I mean,
you could always be the one to start your local community.
That's
too.
true.
Maybe. Yeah.
If one doesn't exist, someone's got to start it at some point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, of course, look at the community teams blog. So that's make.wordpress.org/community. And you can find more information there about like the meetup program. If you go to, I think the section on Make Community about meetups, and read up on that. And you can always just search, WordPress meetup, in your city or your town, and see what comes up. And if you want to start a local community there, the community team is here to help you along that process. So
there's an interactive map too with all the meetups.
There is, that's on meetup.com.
On meetup.com, yeah.
I'll share that in the chat right now.
When I was registering for the Exeter one, because I'm in the UK, I don't know if Ali heard that, but there was somebody in Addis wanting to join or create one. So there may be somebody else already wanting to do it. So that, if there's more than one of you, I think I'll make an even stronger case.
Yeah, exactly. I just shared a link to the WordPress meetups on meetup.com. So these are all groups that are a part of the official WordPress chapter. And that means that the WordPress community support pays like the dues to meetup.com to enable local communities to have like free meetups in their area. So yeah, take a look at that page.
Yeah, there is no one here in Addis or anywhere in Ethiopia. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Really?
there might be ones that aren't like, official WordPress ones, though someone might just be doing it, so you might want to check that too. And if there
Mhm.
are, like, they, it could become one, it just, they need to go through the process or the application. There's a few things to do it. But yeah.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about right now too is a considerable amount, if not all, meetups are happening virtually. So if there's not one in your area, you are more than welcome to join one anywhere in the world. All of them if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You could scour around and see, what topics people are talking about that week or month, or depending on how frequent they are, and just join, even if it's just a one-off or whatever. So
Yeah, we've had folks from the West Coast join ours. We had a few, like 1 or 2 people from India jump in on our meetups. So yeah, it's been awesome.
Here's I think that this page kind of flies under the radar. A lot of people miss it. Here is a link to the upcoming events, and this shows all upcoming events, and it'll show if they're online or not. And most of them I'm looking at right now are online, and you can just hop in and join any of those. These are all events that are either official meetup events or WordCamps that are taking place online. And so that is another benefit of meetup groups taking part in this program, is that they get promoted this way, both in their own WordPress dashboards and also these event pages, these event feeds. So yeah, just hop into an event, learn a little bit more about like how they run their events, what topics they're doing, and you can take those learnings and apply them to your local community as well, and just like take inspiration from that. So yeah, I would say that's how you can get started.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I see we're coming up on the end
I
of our
unfortunately
hour.
have to jet now because I have a meeting in 3 minutes I have to prep for, but it was awesome seeing everybody and hope to do this again soon.
Yeah, it was nice to see you all, see your faces that I haven't maybe seen in a while, and to meet the folks that I have not met before. So thank you for joining us. If you are in the Slack, you can, if you have any more questions about community, you can pop into the community events channel. Otherwise, I will see you all online.
I just want to add to that,
Mhm.
sorry, if I can.
Go for
Just
it.
for people who aren't on Slack or who are a bit more nervous about joining Slack too, there's
Mhm.
lots of people on Twitter. There's a really great
Yep.
WordPress community. If you're on Facebook, there's Facebook groups. There's a LinkedIn group. I'm not sure how active it is. So wherever you live in social media, there should be some sort of group that's just there for WordPress community in general, not even necessarily about contributing. So you can find most of us there as well.
Yeah, thank you. And there is one last question here. How do you join the Slack? Go to chat.wordpress.org and it will guide you in joining the Slack. Alrighty. Well, thank you again. And I will see you all online. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.